Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us this afternoon or evening, depending on your time zone, or late night, depending where you are around the world. I'm Dr. Niculescu. I'm the founder of MindX Sciences, and the topic today is schizophrenia. Is it a life sentence or is it a manageable chronic condition? These are my affiliations. I'm a professor at IU. I'm a psychiatrist and investigator at the VA as well, and founder of MindX Sciences. And my disclosures. So we had a big study on psychosis biomarkers that came out today, and I'll present a little bit about what the breakthroughs were there, some of the practical applications, and then at the end we'll have a few minutes for people who might want to ask questions. You can use the chat to do that. So the research work that was done and was published was done by my academic research teams, which you're seeing here. I have a team at IU that does primarily genomics and bioinformatics, another team at the VA where a lot of the neuropsych testing and biobanking occurs. Great people. It takes a village to do this type of complex work. So we've been doing this precision medicine type work for over 2 decades now. And when we started this, we wanted to just map the territory. These are the three broad domains for mental health: the anxiety domain, mood domain, cognition. Most psychiatric disorders are mapped to these domains, and these are some of the common disorders and how they would map. And when we started on this journey 2 decades ago, the genomic landscape was not known or poorly known, the genes, the RNAs involved in these disorders. And here's where we're at now. So these are all studies from my teams over the years where we've mapped the territory. We've done studies in mood disorders. We've done studies in anxiety, in alcoholism, which is a disorder that overlaps with a lot of the other domains, in stress. We've looked at the negative outcome of mental health disorders, namely suicide. And we've done studies on schizophrenia, including the one highlighted here in yellow. That's the study that came out today, the most recent. So that's the paper that came out. It came out in a international, highly ranked peer-reviewed journal, and the basic breakthrough in it was that we were able to develop a blood test that can assess whether somebody has two core symptoms of psychosis, of schizophrenia: hallucinations and delusions. And here's a summary of the study. I won't sort of bore you with the technical details. The paper is out. For those of you who are clinicians or researchers or technically inclined, you can actually look at the study. Happy to answer questions about it. But basically, the problem that we addressed was one that a lot of us know, that schizophrenia affects a lot of people. It's not a rare disorder. In the US, at least 3 million Americans have schizophrenia-related disorders. It usually starts in young adulthood, a bit earlier in men than in women, when people are in their prime, usually when they go to college or in they start their career, sometimes in high school early. And it strikes them when they're in prime and derails their lives and the lives of their families. It's a major cause of diminished quality of life and disability to date. So we and others are trying to see how we can bring precision and new tools and new diagnostics, new medications to help improve the lives of people living with schizophrenia, to help make it a very manageable condition like diabetes, to help in the future with prevention efforts so you can nip in the bud any individuals who are at high risk. So, psychosis occurs in the brain, but there are external manifestations, whether there are odd behaviors or odd speech, or the way of dressing, etc., or molecular markers, molecular biomarkers, and that's what we've looked at: peripheral molecular biomarkers, essentially molecules, chemicals in the blood that reflect disease severity and change with the course of the disease and with treatment. So these biomarkers, so-called biological markers, can be objectively and quantitatively measured, and that's what we did in our studies. For those who want to be very technical, these are RNA molecules that we measure in the blood with next generation sequencing. We sequence the whole genome at the level of the RNA, measure transcripts. We've identified, after many years of careful study, a set of specific ones that we validated, that we've reproduced in independent cohorts. So these biological markers track these two core manifestations of psychosis: hallucinations, meaning odd sensations, hearing things, etc., smelling things that are not there, and so on, and delusions, which are odd thoughts, bizarre thoughts, paranoia, things like that. And we've shown in the study that the biological markers that we identified, the biomarkers, were predictive of high hallucinations and of high delusion states, and also of future psychiatric hospitalizations related to exacerbation of psychosis. So not only can they correctly predict somebody's state in an objective way, but they can predict what will happen to them in the year following testing. Are they more likely to get hospitalized, to become more sick, etc.? So there are state and trait markers in the panel that we developed. Conceptually very similar to diabetes, right? Where you have glucose as a state marker, what's happening at that moment in time, and you have hemoglobin A1C as a trait marker, things that happen over time, accumulated risk. The fourth point that comes out of this work, or that is in terms of summarizing the study, is that it's a very important one. Some of these biomarkers are targets of existing medications. So we use that to match somebody to the right treatment, to the right existing treatment, because some people respond to certain medications, some people to others. Currently, as a psychiatrist, as myself and colleagues currently practice, you just have to trial and error process. Start a medication, see if it works. If not, try something else, etc., based on your clinical judgment, on your experience, and so on. With this biological test, you can actually, from the beginning, understand somebody's biology and what are the top medications that match their profile. And then finally, we show in this study how a personalized laboratory report for doctors would look like. And this is a figure from the study. This on the left side is a report for hallucinations. This is an actual patient, de-identified. They have an intermediate high score for hallucinations state at that moment in time, and they have an intermediate high score for chronic risk, for developing, for worsening of hallucinations in the future. On the right-hand side, you see their top pharmaceuticals that they match to, the top nutraceuticals that they match to, and on the right-hand side, there's a similar report for another patient, for the same patient, for delusions, like assessing them for their delusion severity, their chronic delusion risk, and so on, and the medications that they match to. And it's very interesting out of this empirical work, while classic antipsychotics like clozapine, risperidone, and so on are on the list. There are sometimes other surprising medications that are a better match, like fluoxetine, which is an SSRI for delusions in this patient, which might be targeting some of the ruminations and other things that are associated with delusional phenomena. So anyway, that's inside baseball, but it's a clear, simple report that doctors at a glance can look at, and then using their judgment, what they know about the patient, use that quantitative information to help with their diagnosis, to help monitor response to treatment, to help with medication choices. So you fly with instruments as opposed to flying by looking out the window. 4 years ago, we've started MindX Sciences, a company that we spun out of IU, as a way of having a place where people can come and get access to some of these tests. Before, every time we did a research study, it was published, there was media interest, we would get inundated with calls, emails, and so on, of people who wanted to be tested. And I tell them, look, those were research studies. You can't come to my academic lab and be tested, and so on. So finally, we rolled our sleeves to put together a good team of experienced people and opened MindX Sciences 4 years ago. So currently, we are offering testing for that doctors and patients can order for a variety of mental health conditions, and we hope sometime later this year to be able to, after we do additional internal preparations and R&D, to offer the psychosis test also to the public at MindX Sciences. And the key advance of all these blood biomarker tests that we've worked on over the last 2 decades, published and now are available at MindX Sciences, is that they help with better diagnosis, better treatment. So our RNA blood test address the first step that you want to know as a clinician. What's the diagnosis? So these tests help assess disease state, disease risk. So they help doctors and patients with coming sooner to the correct diagnosis and tracking response to treatment. They also help with step 2, what medication should be used in that patient, because they give a list of medications ranked by match, and then the doctor, based on their clinical judgment, other comorbidities, allergies that the patient has, can choose one from that list, as opposed to trial and error. There's a third step that's being done now well by existing DNA tests in the field, which is to, what dose of medication should be used. And those are things that MindX isn't doing currently. There are a lot of companies out there and university settings and, clinical labs that do this DNA testing for medication dosage. So the technical term is pharmacokinetic cytochrome P450 DNA testing. You look at whether you're a fast or slow metabolizer. So then, the psychiatrist starts a lower or a higher dose of medication depending on your ability to metabolize it or not. That's step 3. First of all, you need to know what the patient has, what medication should you be on, and then you worry about what dose should you be using in that patient. That's the proper sequence. All 3 steps are useful. And MindX key advance was providing blood tests for step 1 and 2. And at MindX, we try to offer a comprehensive solution in a biosociopsychological way, as is actually exemplified by our logo. So I discussed the biological part, the MindX 1 blood tests for objective assessment and matching to medications. We also have a digital product that quantifies the social determinants of mental health in general and suicide risk in particular. So things that might be wrong in your environment or life that you can address with your therapist and social work, etc. And then, last but not least, the psychological component is tracked and quantified by our Life and Mind app, which is available in the Apple and Google stores for download. And it's based again on decades of research. All the assessments inside have been used in research and clinical settings by my group, have been validated against existing more cumbersome questionnaires, have been published. So our mission has always been to do our bit to transform mental health care, to bring it into the 21st century, to make it on par with other medical specialties, to help patients and families. And this MindX testing is available now. As one of my favorite science fiction writers says, you know, future is already here, just not evenly distributed. We're currently, you know, growing, but we're still a small startup company, and we haven't done any real marketing or outreach. People reach out to us. We have a website. Doctors are using our tests. Patients reach out to us, and we try to help them the best way we can. Our goal is to span the spectrum from prevention to treatment. So somebody might be currently not doing well, and that's how they enter our ecosystem. They might get our blood tests, might get the digital assessment for social determinants. And then as they sort of are put on the appropriate treatment by their clinician, they might continue to track things at home with our Life and Mind app. And then, you know, follow up every 6 months, once a year, if they're doing great with their clinician. We recommend repeat testing at least once a year, so you see how things are evolving, catch things early, and also get the latest generation tests and data from us. In the future, you know, the goal is prevention, so people can just monitor themselves at home with our app. If they have any family risk and so on, they might want to get tested for certain things so they catch them before they become an issue. So the take-home message practically for those of you who are have these conditions or are a family member of somebody who has this or a clinician who is treating these conditions like I am, it's very important to diagnose early and treat correctly psychosis. It manifests in young adulthood, people's prime, and really derails their lives. And we know from a lot of work in the field, including some of the results in our study that came out today, that genes involved in stress and in drug use, including marijuana, and having those things in your life, having excessive stress, having drug use, can be precipitating factors in individuals that have a genetic vulnerability. So that should be, you know, taken into account and avoided if possible. And third point is that if left unchecked, psychosis develops into full-blown schizophrenia, can lead to accumulated damage on the brain and on the body. The general health suffer. There's social damage, psychological damage. So you want to diagnose people properly, treat them, and intervene as early as possible to mitigate this cascade of things from happening. So the good news is that biologically, even the existing medications and some of the new ones that are coming on the market work very well, but they work well in the right patient. So matching the patients to the treatment is very important. That's the whole goal of precision medicine. That's how it's done in cancer, and that's how it's going to be done in psychiatry, through work that we are doing, through work that other people are doing, and so on. After you fix the biology, then fixing this, having proper social support, fixing the environment is very important. And after that, you can, make sure that there's psychological support. You can do therapy, even in schizophrenia, counseling, and it works well when you have the other pieces in place. And the future is bright. There's a lot of reason for optimism. Progress is happening at a faster clip. Better diagnostics are being developed by us and others, better treatments. And we're entering this year of precision psychiatry, which will be a big game changer for our field. So thank you very much for your attention. And if there are any questions, please put them in the chat, and I will respond to them. And we will record this as well. We'll put it on MindX Sciences website so people can refer to it, or people, if you know people who didn't have a chance to attend this and want to see it, you can refer them to it. So thank you very much.